Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. Someone encouraged and inspired this host, a former lawyer, gambler, inmate, and his life was transformed. The same can happen to you. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you're viewing any of the podcasts on YouTube, please subscribe. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank yous. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person, and virtual seminars. So please contact me through my website, www.dealbyme.com. I have with me Elena Brandner, who is a living testament to strength, resilience, and the indomitable human spirit. Once a promising pharmacy graduate and dedicated athlete, her life took an unexpected turn with a catastrophic accident that not only challenged her physical abilities, but also tested the core of her resilience and spirit. She was left paralyzed from the waist down, defying prediction that she would never walk again. What a story we have today from someone that I'm excited to have as a guest on this podcast. Eleanor, would you share with listeners of this podcast a little bit about yourself and where you've been interviewed from?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, James. I feel honored to be a part of your show and your podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also thank you so much for the kind introduction. So I'm originally from New Smyrna Beach, Florida, born and raised, and I went to pharmacy school and I graduated in May 2021. And I took some time off of pharmacy school and just to recollect myself because I was a bit overwhelmed and just I felt a little bit burnt out. And so I decided to take some time off and then finally buckled down and started studying for my board exam. And then uh, I decided to schedule my board exam February 2022, and I was ready to do it. And that week on that Monday was when I got into a life-altering motor vehicle accident, and it totally, pivoted me in a completely different direction. And I've been essentially in recovery since, and I just hit the 2-year mark about a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
And um as far as being interviewed, was that your question? You had said about an interview.
Oh yeah, well, I'm just excited to have you come and share your story.
Yeah.
There's so much about your story that's very interesting, intriguing. So I want to just kind of walk through a little bit of it, and I
Okay.
wish we had a lot of time to share it all, but I know we won't be able to do that. So I want you to just kind of, if you can, uh, walk us through the pivotal moments in your recovery journey, because I know you had this serious accident that left you uh, basically paralyzed from your waist down. So tell us a little bit about this and how you kind of got to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, the accident happened, and I don't remember any of the accident. There is a video that's out that I was able to make an inference as to what happened. But basically, there was a stopped vehicle in the fast lane on a major highway, and I was trailing behind an SUV, and I couldn't see in front of the SUV. And at last minute, that they swerved out of the way because there was a stopped car, and I ended up ramming right into the back of it. And because of the speed that I was going at, it elevated my Jeep up into the next lane, and there was a semi that was right there, and it happened to hit my undercarriage. And so when my vehicle landed on its side, the hardtop to my Jeep popped off, and I got ejected out, and thus causing a spinal cord injury and
Mm,
a plentiful other injuries as well. I had about 18 broken bones. Thankfully, I had no massive brain injury. I had a concussion, but that was the extent of as far as brain injuries go.
mm,
And and so then I was in the hospital for about 3.5 weeks, and then I transferred into an inpatient rehab for another 3.5 weeks. And basically, when I came home, I had lost over 35 pounds and I was skin and bones because I wasn't able to do anything.
mm,
And I and I didn't have 35 pounds to lose. I was a very physically fit athlete and bodybuilder. And so what I did lose was just essentially just a lot of muscle,
mm,
and which was really hard for me to look at myself when I came home. And so then it was trying to find like how to live life in a wheelchair, and then how to move forward from the situation that I just, I was just kind of brought onto me.
mhm,
And so I started rehab in May 2022, and I've go to rehab. I started with 3 days a week in this place. It's called Center of Recovery and Exercise Core, and it's about an hour drive away from me, and it's the only one in the world. Which that by the grace of God, things happen, and He's here
mm.
to equip us and get us through the things that we go through.
Right.
And so I started at 3 days a week, 6 hours of therapy, and then I slowly progressed to 4 hours or 4 days a week to 8 hours. Um, and then I arrive an hour early and I hop on a bicycle machine to help get my legs stronger. And
Mm.
so I'm basically there about 12 to 15 hours a week, and I've been doing that consistently since probably for about a year now.
Are you still doing that now?
Yeah,
Okay. Let me ask you this. I want to just say to you that I read your profile, and it's very, very powerful. It's amazing with
thank you.
what you've gone through, and I sit here and think about what I've gone through, and then you always think about other folk, and you say, "Oh, what you've gone through is hardly nothing," you know. Uh, s- but you talk about um, having the right mindset, uh,
Yeah.
and so, but you kind of talk about that a little bit, this transformative power of a mindset, what specific mindset shifts or practices played a crucial role in your recovery. Would you kind of share a little bit about that with listeners of this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally my mindset was not in a good place. Not that I really ever kind of felt victim to what happened. I never really asked like why it happened. I kind of just had to like really sit and reflect and look to find purpose in what happened. But in the beginning, it was really challenging because I felt like everything was kind of ripped away from me. I felt a little bit betrayed by life. Um, and it took me, I had to invest in a coach, and I had to invest in, I had to invest in myself to be able to get myself out of it. And I fell
Hmm.
back onto particular habits that I created prior to the accident that really reinforced and built up my confidence to help me get through the things that, I've been going through. And I think that I've more so adopted like a growth mindset around it, and instead of asking like why it happened and why would this happen to me, it's now asking like, okay, what can I learn from this, and what is this trying to show me? And so I because for a really long time I wasn't able to lift any weights, and lifting weights has been something a part of my life for an extended period of time. And when I was still lifting weights in my C collar,
Hmm.
and I had even a Foley catheter. I was still wearing a diaper at that point in time, and I was already in the garage lifting weights. And I slowly started like rebuilding myself and getting
Mm.
my confidence back to be able to navigate through the challenges that I was facing and were going to face as the weeks and months came through.
Okay. You know, you you talk about, how people were skeptical about your ability to, walk again. And I thought that was really kind of powerful. So, what internal, factors other than your sheer determination, you know, uh, do you credit for defying those expectations and making such remarkable strides in a relatively short time? Because obviously you've done very well. How did you do it?
I the only thing that I know how to do is like put the work in.
Hmm.
When I say that God's been on my side throughout this whole entire journey, He has been, and He's continued providing for me so that I'm able to carry out what's in front of me every single day. Like I said, the rehab place that I go to, it's really the only one in the world that is like it. And it's only an hour, it's not even an hour, it's like 45 to 55 minutes away from me. And I've had a significant amount of donations given to me to be able to, not have to go to work every single day or go to work
Hmm.
at all, really, and just kind of solely focus on recovery. And so when you put all these things into perspective and see it from kind of like a bird's eye view, like, yeah, I could be really sad and like depressed that I got put into this situation. But again, everything has been everything has been not handed to me, but laid out for me in a way that
Hmm.
says, okay, like here's your shovel, now
Hmm.
go dig the hole.
Oh, I like that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. You are obviously a spiritual person. I'm sensing that in our conversation. And so it's just good talking to somebody who has that spiritual connection. And I know what that's like. I'm in that same situation, having pastored for over 32 years, now retired and doing this podcast. So one of my main focus is to really try to help folk, encourage, inspire, and to just have you on this podcast is just very exciting, uh, amazing. And there's
Thank you for having me.
so many other adjectives that I probably could say. Uh, your faith has been obviously a guiding force uh, throughout your journey. How has your spiritual perspective influenced your approach to recovery? Uh, because that's obviously was important. I know when I went through my difficulties, it was my faith that kicked in for me that allowed me to make the changes that I had to make. Uh, I say I know I can do it, and my faith was a guiding force. What was it for you?
I think also my faith was a guiding force. I think that, the accident was really, really bad to the
Hmm.
point where like I probably shouldn't be here. And a lot of people say that like I shouldn't be here, but I am. And just that in itself, again, like I could be really upset that the accident happened, but why would I be upset when I felt like I got saved in a
Hmm.
sense. And so I feel like I owe it to the man above to continue, like to put the work in and and try and strive for the best outcome. Because if he saved me that day, then who's to say that the best outcome won't happen?
Wow, wow, that is so very powerful. I mean, very, very powerful. You know, as think about the listening uh, persons of this podcast, there are some of them I know who have maybe not gone through the same thing that you have, but they have had these adversities to occur in their lives. They're, you know, some
Yeah.
situations that they seem not to be able to control, that, you know, whatever it might be. And to just have somebody like you and what you have gone through to share with them, I think would be very, very helpful. So, what could you say to someone who is in the situations that I've just mentioned that would be encouraging, that would be inspiring, and hopefully transforming to them? Is there anything?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say to find purpose in what it is that not that what it is that happened, but to find purpose in how you're going to move forward, because we can get really caught in thinking again the whole victim mindset of like, why am I in this position, like what did I do wrong? And it's not really about that, but maybe so more so opening oneself up to what this could turn into and what the purpose behind it could be, and kind of creating your purpose out of it versus sitting and just wondering all the time as to why. And I think that we can really fall into that, and to just keep going. And as long as you're doing your part, and when I say doing your part, you're doing the work necessary, that not even the work necessary, but the work that you could be doing
Mhm.
and should choose to do, because regardless of whatever situation it is, what other better thing is there to do versus putting in the work. I'm not wording this the right way, versus putting in the work that instead of being lazy, like what else are you going to do?
Okay,
Are you just gonna sit there
I
and be
got.
sad? Yeah.
Mm. Wow, wow. Um, I want to thank you for sharing that, and I know of this podcast appreciate what you've said because you are a living example of what can happen and how you can come back, maybe not to the physical aspect that you would like to be, but mentally and spiritually, you've got it, and
Thank
that's
you.
most important in life. Listeners, please don't go in a place. Eleanor is sharing some very great information to us, and so I want to ask Eleanor now if there are listeners of this podcast who would like to know more about you. I don't know if you have a book or if you have a website uh, that you can share with listeners who may be interested in just learning more about you and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. They can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is flowstate_recovery, but flow state is FLOSTATE_recovery. And I'm pretty up to date with everything on there. And yeah, I post all the time, and I am also an online fitness and mindset coach. And so if anybody needs help in those areas, then they are more than welcome to reach out to me through Instagram, and we can get them dialed in on all aspects.
Oh, well, okay, great. I hope listeners, I hope you've taken that to heart. I know you just mentioned about being an online coach. That's what you do. So, how do you approach the, integration of fitness, nutrition, and mindset for holistic well-being? And would you continue by telling us just what advice do you have for individuals looking to enhance their overall quality of life?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. I think that we have like those are the three main areas is, mind, body, spirit. And when you have your body aligned, and you have like your nutrition, your fitness, and you feel good about yourself, and everything is in alignment, then spirit starts to open up and
mm,
starts talking to you in a way that isn't bogged down by the criticism that one might have of themselves, because they don't look the way that they look, or they don't feel the way that they want to feel. And so I think when you get all of these things aligned and centered, that, things start opening up for you, or you start seeing life in a much clearer view versus again bogged down by judgment and by sadness, because you're not where you essentially want to be, but you could be if you just reflected a little bit on your habits, maybe changed a few things and implemented some new things that could potentially switch, potentially pivot the way that you think or look, or however
mm,
you want to say it,
okay.
in a direction that is more fulfilling and more eye-opening and
Mm,
more
mm.
just more grateful on all in all because everything is flowing well.
Wow. Wow. I'm so just grateful to you. Just
Thank you.
opening up and sharing today with listeners of this podcast and keeping it so conversational that listeners can't help but gravitate to it. I know that you in your profile talked about uh, being a pharmacy, studying pharmacy, but somehow your journey shifts from pharmacy to coaching. So how do you see the intersection of your professional background and personal experience shaping your mission and purpose in helping others? Can you share that a little bit with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I can't say that pharmacy was always my dream job. I think it was more so of a societal expectation, and that was the comfort or easy, not that the program is easy in any kind of way, but
Mhm.
it was more falling into like the societal expectations of, well, you, because I had a high affinity for math, I had a high affinity for science. Was able to I was able to pick up on those things really well. I didn't want to go to like a whole doctor to become a medical doctor because of how long it took. So I was like, okay, like maybe I'll just go ahead and do this.
Mhm.
And when I was in the program, I had always had like little tiny nudges of like, okay, is this what you really want to do? Is this what you really want to do your whole entire life? And I just kept ignoring them and ignoring them. And I was always really into fitness and I was always really into personal development. I remember I would wake up really early in the mornings and I would read a book and I would take notes and I was really working. I really took pharmacy school and made it an opportunity to like work on myself and figure out who I really was and what I really like to do and things like that. And then this accident happened and it was the week of my board exam, even though I don't know. Like I said, you can look at it as like really bad timing, or you can look at it as kind of like a little divine intervention because I had little whispers all throughout pharmacy school telling me like, okay, maybe we should go do something else. And I always wanted to be a coach. I had written on my 2022 New Year's resolution list to become a life coach that year. And then
Mhm.
a month later, the accident happened. And so it's hard for me to say that you know, it wasn't divine intervention, but I think that I always wanted to help people. And what I liked about pharmacy is when we got to, there's like there's all different kinds of pharmacists. And one of them
Mhm.
is ambulatory care, where you get to really like interact and talk with patients and really assess like their medical profile and their medications. And that really intrigued me. And because I just like talking to people. I enjoy conversation. I
Mhm.
enjoy getting to know people, and so I I then sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second.
That's
Uh,
okay.
and so then when I graduated, my original plan was to open up a clinic and be able to help people with substance use disorders. But it wasn't really like the medical side of it that I was like super interested in. It was more so the helping side of it,
Okay.
the connecting and hearing stories side of it. And so then when again, when the accident happened, I kind of was like, I didn't really have a story beforehand, but now I have a story, and now I'm a story of overcoming major adversity. And, I am posting on social media, and I have all these people reach out to me and tell me how motivating and how inspired they are, and that, because of me, they're doing X, Y, Z. And it kind of
Mm.
it kind of made the light bulb in my head a little bit brighter.
Okay.
And it started pushing me towards coaching, and so that's what I decided to dive into and do.
Okay. Let me ask you this because so many people listen to podcasts and sometimes they hear uh, people talking about they into coaching, and I'm I'm certain that a lot of people who are listening don't quite understand what you mean when you say you're coaching or you are a life coach. So I want to kind of make certain that I'm correct when I kind of share this, is that you're kind of uh, coaching other folk to kind of uh, uh, as a life coach is where you're kind of coaching other people into being the person that they can be. Now you can add to that if you want to. Am I basically in the ballpark?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
definitely. It's basically, people have certain goals, and
right.
while they have their friends and their family telling them to go after their goals, those are all very personal influences that
Okay.
are, try to keep them accountable. But then when you have an outside person that, lays a foundation down for you and it says, look, if you stick to this and you follow, what I'm trying to show you and tell you, and
Hmm.
if you have any problems, like you just come to me and like we'll figure it out. And it's
Okay.
not in a way, the difference between like a coach and a therapist is that coaches usually have life experience to back up what it is that they are trying to, help other people
I
along in
got
their
it.
journey with.
I
Whereas
got it.
therapists, they
Okay.
go to school and have
I,
a and learn what to say essentially.
I follow you. I got you. That was my last question to you that I want you to kind of share as brief as you can because you talk about it in your profile uh, about upholding God's glory, and that's resonate with me because I am a minister, I have pastored, and I'm a spiritual individual. But tell me, how do you see your story impacting others, and what legacy do you hope to leave through sharing your journey? I'm certain there is something that you're trying to do that you hope will help somebody else. What is that?
That we can get whatever we want in life as long as we are doing our part in aligning with our thoughts and our actions to the certain outcome that we want. It's not we aren't here to hope and, I say hope and pray that like something's going to happen. We can hope and pray that something's going to happen, but it's only going to happen if you are consistently doing your part in it.
Mhm.
And so when I say upholding God's glory, like I said, I was told I was never going to walk again. And at one point that was one of my biggest fears as a kid and as an athlete and a bodybuilder, to lose the ability of my legs. And so I had it in me. I'm like, there's no way that this is going to be my story. Like
Mhm.
at all. And so the day the accident happened is the day that the plot to my story, like the plot to my story was given to me, and now I look at it as God and I writing my story day by day, and as long as I'm following and being obedient to Him, that He's going to continue blessing me in the way that, I can then show to other people, like if you do your part, if you put in the work, and if you are consistent in what you say you're going to do and you follow through, then you will get what you want,
Okay,
because
okay.
your heart is aligning to what's to what it is that you're going after.
Well said. Well said. I'm excited. Well, and there you have it. Elena Brandner sharing her story with us today. It's been so very powerful. And I am certain that listeners of this podcast, you have truly benefited from her sharing. And so until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.